right? That was a great idea.
I'll work on that for next year.
I'm already
Not
designing
before,
Carson the
yeah.
bricklayer in my head. All right.
Okay, so we don't have an agenda, but Quinn, do you want to be the hostess?
Sure. Just to prevent awkward silence, as is tradition, I will jump in and MC the remainder of the show. Pro tip: you can get Quinn to do anything with awkward silence. So let's do the traditional. What is everyone's favorite part of KFest this year? Which is kind of an interesting question, being that it's virtual. Don't say the people, Carrington.
It's the people.
I was just saying, the fact,
the people.
speaking
It's
as
the avatars.
I guess speaking as have one of the organizers, the fact that it came off as spectacularly as it did, with the very few technical hiccups that we had, like I think we were all losing sleep over how this was going to come off, and it came off brilliantly.
It was seriously better than it had any right to be. Like, it's remarkably good.
It was better than a lot of virtual conferences with 10x the budget. Definitely. Yeah. It's not easy to do something big and virtual. And hats off to the KFest committee.
And for the first time, it's not like we've been warming up to, it was a small thing with a dozen people around Skype, last year, and then, it's ramping up and ramping up. No, it was suddenly 500 people on a Discord server, on a Zoom webinar, all this new technology that a lot of the presenters, I don't think, had interacted with until, they had to. It was great. There was really no barrier to, there was no technology barrier between you and the people that were presenting. So I felt like it was an astonishing achievement.
Yeah.
Yes, and a surprising benefit for me was, first of all, the attendance. I mean, because it was virtual, so many more people were able to attend. So there was just hundreds and hundreds of people, and a lot of people who would never come to the real one. John Carmack was here, which was crazy. Like, John Carmack was just kicking around in the Discord, talking to people. That happened.
Woz was there briefly in the Discord.
Wait, he was?
What?
When did that happen?
That was a different Steve W, I think.
That was a different Steve W.
Darn.
That would have been twice I've missed him.
Like, how did we miss that?
Yeah, no, it's true though that I really didn't quite know what it was going to be like. We sort of tried to set it up, but I mean, like, I just didn't know how it was going to go, and I think it went super smoothly and was a lot of fun, and and it's over too soon, just like the real one.
Does Discord have a way of like showing a map of like where in the world everyone's connecting from? I would love to have seen that.
I don't
That's
think
creepy.
so.
That would be
No, Discord doesn't do that.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah.
It'd be cool, but that's something like you could theoretically like write a bot to do like you would in an IRC channel. I was in an IRC channel where we had that one time. Like it mapped everybody on Google Maps. There was a command that you would put in with like your city and state or your country or whatever.
Got it.
So theoretically, you could probably write a bot to do it, but I don't think it's baked into Discord.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought was really cool was the number of kind of first timers who were just astounded at the depth of the talks. And I saw so many people who were like, I can't believe people are doing this, on the Apple II. And my reaction was, actually, every KansasFest is like that, right? If you just come to them, every year is like these astounding things. And for them, it was like this brand new revelation. So that was cool.
Yeah, this was my first, I had never I keep meaning to attend like for the past 10 years. And eventually I will, hopefully next year, in person. But yeah, it seemed like things got a lot more into the weeds as far as, technical details. And, like I would be listening to something, walk upstairs, get coffee, come back, and then you're looking at like assembly listings of what was just being talked about. But yeah, it was really, I'm sure if it's a week long and you're there in person, you get a little more, more of a grip around things. But it was quite, I thought it was quite impressive being a first time, but there was no point, where it was, at all dull or, things that I didn't really think, okay, well, this is not really my cup of tea, but still, like, it turned out to be interesting with this or that talk. So I don't know if I'm the only one that hasn't been here before. Probably.
Yeah, I think in this.
I think you might actually be.
Yeah, actually.
Welcome to KFest.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it will be interesting to see if attendance next year is higher because of this. Like this was sort of like a free trial KFest. Like
I'm a little afraid, actually.
Now, the reality of the dorm and the
Yeah,
food.
like we have only so
The
much.
food this year was
space.
amazing, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Right. Showers worked really well.
coffee was
Showers
so
and
good.
beds were
Better.
I
great.
know, my bed.
Rob, did you have something to say? I feel like Rob had something to say. I'm looking at Rob. Looks like he has something to say.
Oh, I just said the food this year was amazing.
Yes.
My suggestion for the board, for the board members, that are listening, is that you continue to do the virtual KFest in parallel to the in-person KFest, because
during all your free time.
I was gonna
What,
say,
you mean, like every 6 months?
I don't think any of us have the processor cycles
mean,
to think
but-
about this for about a week.
Right. But I mean, you already do the streaming. You know, that would just be basically just throw the Discord up there, so
Yes.
people who are,
The
and
streaming.
so you have 100 people on site, and then you have like 300 people that couldn't make it on site, but they're able to interact virtually.
And you charge them for admission?
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
a good
like
idea.
Like $20
just like with
access
$20,
to the Discord
right.
would be great.
Yeah.
Like that's
Yeah.
awesome.
yeah, it would
You
really
get the
help.
back channel for $20, and then you can watch the, or if you don't want to, then you can watch the stream on YouTube and download the videos later. But if you want to interact live and have at least the virtual experience, then it's $20.
See,
and
Yeah.
See,
This,
that's
covers the
a
Discord.
better idea than the one I had. I was thinking along the terms of events like MagFest or Awesome Games Done Quick, where they do it twice a year, and you could do like a one-day virtual Kansas Fest in February, and then do a full on-site
No.
Kansas Fest in
No, Ken.
July.
I was
Somebody
thinking you
mute
guys would do
Ken.
it weekly.
Somebody mute Ken.
Did I not just say I prefer Charles's idea?
yeah.
Do not
Yeah.
put that into the universe.
The
Done.
Discord has been really kind of good, though. I mean, like it's.
Yeah, the Discord worked very well.
Yeah.
I think the only I believe that it will last on. I mean, that the only thing that I'm hesitant about trying to lock it for next year is that I think it's going to be I think it's the new Facebook group or whatever. I think it's the place where everyone's going to be.
Could be.
So I don't know that we can ever lock it down again.
Right. Although the question, I guess, is, does somebody have to moderate it, right? Or can it?
Yeah, and that's going to be the thing. I
self-moderated?
think the
Eventually
committee has to
moderating-
we're going to
Yeah.
need people to keep an
But
eye on it and moderate.
Ask Sally if she knows anybody.
But then one
That's
thing,
not. No, I'm not.
like Ken, I'm on, I'm probably on 18,
Oh yeah.
20 Discords, and the different ones. I mean, some are more, cleanly handled. Others are maybe just one or two are kind of a hot mess. But the people in the community, I mean, after you basically, point out somebody, these guys are prominent, well, they can be moderators, and then they'll provide moderating to other people. It seems like that might safely be able to happen without like an organizational, tight management of it. But it seems to work in most of the Discords that I hang out with, and these are pretty loose groups of people with lots of attendance.
Well, so behind the scenes, have there been that many problems on the Discord this time around?
There were nothing major. There were
Yeah.
a couple
Okay.
minor things, but you can easily imagine that you just let it be totally free form. That things could crop up.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't
Is
think
it
I've ever
a-
seen a community that doesn't require moderation sooner or later.
Yeah.
And
I
but
mean,
I think
some people moderate the Facebook group.
yeah, but even the smallest charge is very effective at weeding out people. Like people aren't going to pay $20 to go into a Discord and troll it. So that
good
could be
point.
really effective.
Is there a like an invite only kind of thing, or even like a karma system where you can say, okay, these
I think
people
we can
have,
set it to invite only.
karma.
I can
that's a good point.
dig down into it. And
Yeah, I
the other
think
thing
it
we
is
have
automatically.
to do is transfer
Yeah.
ownership of it to someone that is not me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the we might want to sever this from KFest.
Yeah.
And then it could be there's just the community.
But then
But-
there has to be like an email address or something that's attached to the Discord. Somebody has to own the Discord.
I think the advantage to having it tied to KFest is that the Kansas Fest committee is a 501c3 or whatever.
True.
As an organization can be responsible for whatever it requires.
Yeah, I think there's sort of like pluses and minuses everywhere here. So I mean, like, what I'm trying to imagine is, if it gets to June, do we say, okay, we lock everybody out who hasn't paid the $20, and so all their conversations get, aborted unless they
either that or
join up again.
We keep this as like the Apple II, because I think I can rename the server, and then next year have a specific 2021 KFest Discord that does get archived and locked.
Or maybe when you pay for KFest, it's a 1-year subscription.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. We'd have to kick everybody out after 11 months or something.
KFest as a service.
Yeah, we can. I think we're definitely thinking about all these things. I think it would be nice to have a functioning Discord at any rate next year.
This isn't a committee meeting.
Do you all want to be deputized?
You want to be part of it?
We can totally do that.
Go. Bye.
So breaking up, we can't.
I will put my name in the hat if somebody wants to. If you want to like pass around like who wants to be a moderator or whatever, I'll be glad to moderate a channel or two and say I'll be on that most of the day anyway. So
cool.
That's the thing. I'm not going to be
people can volunteer
online
to
as
be
much
moderators.
this year.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that the Discord worked much better than the Slack channel that we tried a couple years ago. That kind of fizzled. Like, I guess it's still there. I don't know.
Yeah, it exists.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It didn't seem to get the momentum. Like the Discord just blew up. Like there's just full of people everywhere.
Yeah, well, and I think that's just because that's the only option. I'm a little worried about trying to I like the idea of people being able to participate next year from remote locations, but I'm not sure how that's going to work, because I think once you can actually walk around and go check out what's in people's rooms and stuff like that, no one's going to pay attention to the Discord except the people in the Discord.
That's what I'm thinking. I think that's what happened with the. I was thinking about this actually last night. That was the problem with the Slack, and because somebody said, I feel bad about. You post to the Slack, you post to the email list that I need to go to Walmart or whatever, and people don't see it because everybody's in front of their computers the entire time for this.
Yeah, everybody's pretty unplugged.
I promise you, last year when I got home from KFest, I had I didn't check my Destiny Clans Discord for like the entire week. I just marked the whole thing as read, and it was a complete wash.
Yeah, with regard to the streaming, I think there's a challenge there. Like if we offer a virtual option that's like $20 streaming, the streaming is kind of by the skin of our teeth every year at the Real KFest.
Yeah.
Like it barely works because like Jason Scott or someone else is willing to kill themselves trying to make it work and running Ethernet cables to the basement and craziness. So you don't really want to set yourself up to guarantee that to people because they've paid $20 for it. Like it's a nice gravy on top of Real KFest, but it's hard to commit to that.
This was definitely a fair amount of work, right? As much work as a regular Kansas Fest, but maybe just a little bit more compressed. And so I don't think we would even want to do like the webinar version of the video.
Well, and just the infrastructure at Rockhurst just has historically not been good enough to offer that service. Like their internet is terrible, and it goes down constantly. And the sheer power of Jason Scott is required to keep it running at all.
I think Jason was actually suggesting like bringing in a mobile, like a hotspot on a truck or whatever to help with.
They call those they call them cows.
Right.
To sell on wheels.
Cool.
In Canada, we call them fiery pigs.
Aside from the whole Discord thing, I found this experience the last 2 days bittersweet. It was better than no KFest, but I couldn't walk up to my friends and give them a hug and hang out with them in real, in the dorm room and have hour-long conversations. And
after missing last year's, I was really looking forward to getting to see everyone in person this year. So this is pretty darn nice. Just being able to see everyone has been pretty awesome, and hanging out in the one of the video rooms on Discord last night was pretty cool. But it's the La Croix of
that's a good metaphor. I like that. The hint water. It's like, well, it's okay, I guess.
Yeah, I gotta say when the Zoom shut off tonight at the end of the the end of the webinar, and it started, and just, everybody just started disappearing out of the presenter list, I started to get kind of misty. I was like, I'm not gonna maybe see some of these people for a year, and then I was getting sad.
Yeah, it was sad when Peter was like, "Well, I guess that's it."
No,
gotta go home, but you can't stay here.
Yeah, it didn't have the wind down that you get with Real K-Fest. Everybody packing up and
there's that.
Well, and then I have a 14-hour
get.
drive home.
Yeah, the closure. Yeah. Go sit in your car in the garage for 14 hours. Like,
well, a lot of events, I think people worry that if you open it up to the general public to come virtually for just $20, then the event won't be sustainable because everyone will do that. But anybody who's gone to KansasFest knows it is not remotely the same. I mean, it's great to have access because if you couldn't go or whatever, then you get to have this. But Kay's right. Like it's not the same as actually being there. Once you have a taste of being there, there's no substitute.
We had that exact same concern when we started streaming the event. Why would anybody come if they can just watch it live in real time on video from home? And what ended up happening was people would watch the videos from home and say, I want to go to that. And attendance went up.
And it's less scary because you've seen some of the people.
Yeah, exactly. I think my guess is that probably a better strategy is just to stream it, not try to charge for it, and just, do what we've done before,
it seems to be working. One interesting thing about the virtual version of this, I was talking to a fellow K-Fester and good friend, and I'll keep his name out of it just in case, but he was saying, so he's one of those people who the sessions are not what this is about for him. He just sits in the lobby for the entire week. People come through and you talk to people and you work on projects all night or whatever. So this was sort of like, if you're not a sessions person, this was a very different and possibly lesser experience.
Yeah, I would say that this KansasFest was not about how well things were done compared to being there. It was about what was missing. Like the session aspect, as Quinn just pointed out, in my experience this year, was one-to-one with being on site. I don't feel like anything was missing from the session, the scheduled component of KansasFest. It was everything else that was missing that I really felt.
Going out to dinner, hanging out with friends, playing
going
the
to buy
games.
postcards.
And you getting frozen yogurt.
The smell.
We said that in one of the video chats the other night. We need candles that smell like isopropyl alcohol and reefer caps.
And I believe somebody was mentioning, you have to make sure to go take a very cold shower early in the morning just to get the full effect. Yes.
Yeah, make one salad in the middle
with somebody watching you.
I left my oven open the whole time. Just
it's been hot and it's back up here.
I should have left my soldering iron on just for the fumes.
Yeah.
For that ambiance. So speaking of the sessions, what was everybody's favorite session this year?
Missed demake.
Missed.
It's good.
That's high up on my list.
Yeah, it's really high up on my list.
It's pretty amazing.
Because I should stream this.
I mean, I'd already read all about it and and I was still impressed.
Reading about it and seeing it were two very different things.
That's kind of an OS and user interface nerd. I kind of like the A2 OS X presentation.
Yep.
Yeah, that thing is cool.
That was cool. I think the one by Tomas, the Apple II emulator, that was
that
was amazing.
That was slickly produced.
Yeah.
So that one was the Steve 2 emulator, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Not to be confused with the online 8-Bit Workshop, which was also pretty impressive.
I was about to call that one out, 8-Bit Workshop. That one kind of came out of nowhere for me, and that was really impressive. I love that where you think the emulator problem is solved, and then someone comes along and just has a totally fresh take on it. Like it was a few years ago when someone had the emulator where you could rewind time.
Oh, yeah.
And that just blew everybody's minds. Like how in 30 years of writing emulators has nobody done that yet? And it was such a good idea. I think he never finished that. But that
was Tom, right? Is that IE?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I have to say your table reads. The table reads. Those were both so funny.
Glad you enjoyed them.
Challenge there was without being able to hear audience laughter. It's like playing to an empty room, and I
that's
had no idea if they were working or not.
The performance aspect of that is very difficult.
Presenting on Zoom is very tough. It really is.
The Nox Archaist one just keeps me excited. Got me excited, and they've just sustained excitement for so long.
Did you see your name go by? I think your name is in the credits, isn't it? The acknowledgements.
I saw it.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm in the game.
kickstarting it probably. Yeah.
For
even when Apple II games were coming out new, I was not as excited about seeing a new Apple II game as I am about all the updates to Nox.
I agree.
And I didn't play many RPGs when I was playing stuff. It was maybe Bard's Tale was one of my entries into that. But it's like, I mean, just the graphics on it, the performance on it, and it's like they're getting all of this out of just a standard machine. They're not like requiring an emulator. They're not requiring 8 megs of RAM and all this stuff. It's so amazing.
But as Quinn pointed out during the session chat, what's amazing is to see this like 8-bit period accurate game that has modern gaming things. Like it starts off with tutorials and things.
Yes.
So it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, the modern design sensibility of it, I love. Like it's a soft start, it's approachable. It's 3 clicks to gameplay. Like it's the kinds of things that we do in modern game design, and it's all in there. The push-pull tutorials, like it's really nicely designed. And
the microtransactions I could do without.
Yeah.
Right. I'm waiting for it to pop up and say, "Would you like to skip this fight?"
Yes.
If so, let us mine Bitcoin.
Yeah. the rewarded video, is a little much. No, but I have a confession to make. I'm a very bad Apple II community person. I had not yet purchased Nox Archaist. So literally in the middle of this year's presentation, I pre-ordered the collector's edition. I think it was actually, Chris, when you were showing the manual. I think that was the straw that broke my bad Apple II owner's back. That manual looks so nice.
It's very nice. Yes. Yeah.
You did a very bad job of hiding the cover.
No, I think I showed it like twice. Mark's gonna kill me.
No, it was like that little secret reveal. Oh, I shouldn't have shown you.
Oops.
I want that cloth map.
The team, you almost lost me when you revealed that Burger Becky is doing a 2GS version, because I almost want to wait for that. But I'm not going to. But
why wait? Get both.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. I'm sure I'll get
Joe,
both. Yeah,
you nailed it.
Yeah.
Another session that came out of nowhere for me, but I'm actually really interested in was Selim Abraham's one, the Greasy graphics library, low-res sprite work that looks really approachable if you want to knock out a low-res game, and now you've got sprites. It's like, take that, Apple, or take that, Atari people. We've got it too.
Bring it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing about that one. Low-res was the first entry point for me in the Apple II world, and I've always loved low-res graphics. I remember I went to a computer store, this was late 70s, and they had this great low-res game on display, and I don't remember much about it other than it was just really visually appealing. And so I went back and programmed some low-res graphics, and that sprite and background library looked like it would really come in handy.
Yeah, and he's a great example of someone who might not have made it to a real K-Fest, but he was here and he had all these interesting new ideas. His Hackfest entry was fantastic. Like, he's the kind of guy who you would think you'd heard a lot from in the community, but now we get to interact with all these new people because of the virtual nature of this year.
Good point.
Yeah, I was just looking through the session list to try to think of what to talk about, and like there wasn't a bad one. So I can't eliminate any from that.
They were all everybody did a fantastic job.
That goofy guy that did those those lights that go in the Apple II, that was really cool.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Joe, I have to say you're an awesome presenter. I mean, I like your YouTube channel, but
thank you.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Sort of.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing all the clear cases that everybody is getting this year once the clear cases actually get out to get in people's hands, and what people are tricking them out to.
Mm-hmm. I bought one of your the light to above your right shoulder, the Apple while you were presenting it. I actually got online and did that, so that'll be cool to put together. And I'll say while I'm talking, I thought that the another one I really liked was the Out of This World, Another World. Becky.
Becky has the best stories.
But especially since the performance is so good on it, given the GS's limitations, and I thought it was particularly interesting that the fill mode wasn't used. So, like that was one of the examples. I remember being aware of that. I've done blog posts about the fill mode. It's like, here it enabled this, but no, she didn't use that. So and she told why. So that was interesting, I thought.
Yeah, fill mode is very interesting. I mean, as a sort of recent 2GS game programmer, I also fell into the siren song of it. And yeah, I'm sure they had in mind polygons when they implemented it. But it seems like such a good idea, and like every 2GS programmer tries to use it for something, and then you get into the details of it, and it just doesn't. It never ends up being worth it, and it's such a funny thing.
It's the only hardware acceleration to the GS's graphics chip, I believe.
Yeah.
I think it's the only thing it does that helps you.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That's it.
I like Ivan's tale of telling the finishing the game that he's been playing for 36 years.
That was awesome.
Wow.
That was amazing.
Game that came on 128 floppy disks.
And I
What he
hope
said
that,
later. Go ahead, Quinn.
I was going to say, I hope that Becky's Out of This World implementation is covered on, I don't know if anybody reads Fabian Slarsgaard, I think is his name, or Slangard. I'm sure I'm butchering that, but he's got a blog, a very technical blog. He covers game engines. So he's done, gritty breakdowns of Doom and various other engines. And he did a great series about all of the ports of Out of This World or Another World. And all of the implementation details of each one, because it's implemented completely differently on every platform to get around the various limitations of each platform. And he's covered every port except Becky's. So I'm really hoping that he corrects that. Apparently he did reach out to her and she sent him everything for him to write his article, and then he never did. So I don't know what's going on there. But if you're listening, Fabian, I'm calling you out. Write about Becky's implementation.
Yeah, I was going to say about Ivan's presentation about what was it called, time zone, that requires 12 or 14 disk sides. He actually, in the chat later on, he said he has 14 floppy drives that he purchased for the purpose of doing it on real hardware.
Nice.
I want to see a picture of that.
Yeah, the problem is that those are like physically separated from him, where like he can't actually work on them right now. But the idea of building a floppy disk RAID is just fomenting in my mind right now.
Yep. The idea that every slot gets a disk card.
Yeah,
the only thing I need it for.
7 slots, 2 disks per slot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. 12 disk sides plus a save. You get 1 spare.
Oh no, I'd build a power supply just to put all and probably do it on duo discs instead of disk 2s because they're more compact. But the idea of powering them is the only thing that's really the sticking point.
I suppose it's still only accessing one at a time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, but the idea of having a 2 or 3 megabyte ProDOS volume separated physically across
14 disks, 2 megabytes.
It would be
is that striped or
Stripe
RAID 3 or RAID 1?
Yeah, RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID.
I wonder how difficult it would be to put it onto a big, total replay, like onto a 3.5-inch disc, or even a volume that's mountable in a CFFA or something like that. I mean, that's obviously difficult, but I wonder how difficult.
I'd like to call out.
I couldn't do it.
I want to call out Alex's presentation on modern video solutions.
Yes, I was like, where were you last August when I was doing all of this?
And you would think that there's no more to say on that topic because we all talked to death about how to display video on modern devices with the Apple II. Frankly, some KFest, it's all I talk about with people. But it's always changing, and that's the problem. Like the solutions that worked, like I have things I've bought at KFest from 3 years ago that no longer work because they relied on VGA or they relied on some other thing that now I don't have anymore. So the problem keeps shifting over time. And so we do frankly need every couple of years this presentation again, so we can all figure out how to plug in our current TVs or whatever. And or like the Night Owl that we've all been using is no longer available. So as those die, we're all going to be stuck again. So his presentation was great, and he cost me $130. I bought one of those TVs that he recommended. I will say I spent more money on this KFest than I have in any previous one.
Think of all the money you saved traveling.
Yeah, but you didn't.
I guess honestly,
you didn't have to travel. So
just sitting in front of Amazon and Kickstarter while people are talking, it's like, ooh, click. Oh. Yeah.
Are you going to paint it to match your 2C?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of you and the 2C, a few years ago I got from you the Mega Beep you made.
Yes.
And I was looking for it a while ago because I'm gone all virtual, but I'm like, I hang on to those little bits because you never know when you're going to want like a thing. If I go back to, I was like, I've lost it. I can't find it. Well, I found it during this KansasFest because right after I bought it from you, I tucked it into my little name holder, and bingo. One
nice.
So I stuck on my name badge to feel like I was at KansasFest, and tucked inside it is the Quinn Dunki Mega Beep. So
sweet.
Nice.
I'll just tuck it away and forget all about it again for another 4 years.
Paul, your talk on the solutions for the Apple III was very good, and I was very excited to hear that the booty will work in the Apple III because I've got an Apple III and I've never actually gotten to get it to work, and I was never sure whether it was a floppy issue or what. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to giving that a try.
Yeah,
that's been kind of neat.
I learned about the booty this year. I didn't know about it, and that's another good example of a topic you would think that we have run out of things to say about virtual storage, but again, it's a problem that keeps shifting. Like, can't get compact flash cards anymore, so those solutions are all dead, and even regular SD cards are getting harder to get. And the Flash Air thing went away, and
and it's cheap. It's a cheap bit of kit.
Yeah. That's the surprising thing. It really doesn't cost very much once Chris ships it from Australia, at least.
Yeah, that's the only problem.
It's definitely neat though to have to see the kind of the little bit of 3 enthusiasm that this has brought. I mean,
whenever you talk about
this is the year that the community builds.
I see.
Whenever you talk about the Apple III, Paul, I learned something new about the Apple III, and it's like my knowledge of the Apple III is building and building and building. But each of the new things that I learn is another reason why I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want anything to do with that because it won't run. It has to have drivers, and then it
drivers.
Yeah, you won't plug in like regular peripherals without having some. Oh no. But then it's like, oh, there's something interesting that it can do now. But then all the other things, no.
Yeah.
Every time Paul talks about the Apple III, I come closer and closer. I'm going the other way to writing something for it because of the graphics. Every time you talk about the graphics modes, like all these colors and like sprites, like software fonts, and I'm like, this sounds great. Like, I want to write stuff for that. But previously, the barrier has been emulation. There isn't any, so it sounds like that's basically solved now. Is that true?
So. Yeah. They're working hard to make it, totally accurate. So. MAME at least does a really good job.
I can't go back to developing on real hardware, so there has to be emulation for your platform, or I won't touch it.
Right.
Yeah, they do try to emulate every chip, and that's why it's taking so damn long.
As a recent acquirer of 2 broken Apple IIes, I'm looking at the future of Apple IIIs. Sorry, brain failure. It's late here. I'm really looking forward to what's coming down the pipe for Apple IIIs.
Speaking of hardware emulation, 8-Bit Workshop simulating Verilog, like that. Yeah. He buried the lead on that. Like that, just my head exploded. Like,
can you go into what Verilog is for those of us who are not?
So Verilog, or a popular alternative is VHDL. It's a hardware description language, and basically it's what modern hardware designers use for designing chips. It looks kind of C-like, but it's everything is happening simultaneously because it's hardware. So you have to be careful about looking at it like you would C. But basically, it's hardware description language, and you can use it to create FPGAs and other types of ICs. And so what he's doing with 8-Bit Workshop is you can put Verilog in it and simulate any hardware that doesn't exist yet. So if you're going to make an FPGA, or for example, I made my 8-bit computer Veronica, which got me to my first KFest, I could actually write an emulator for that in his development environment, which is kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, I thought he just sort of mentioned it. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, it does Verilog, so whatever. Now it emulates everything now.
Yeah. It emulates everything, including things from the future.
Yeah, like as soon as you've got that, you've solved the problem.
Yeah, he said something about being able to emulate a peripheral before you actually build the peripheral, and that, like I said, just went right over my head because it was I didn't understand. But now I'm gonna have to go back and watch the presentation again.
See, us old kids, we used to use breadboards and circuits and wires, and now you just put it in a program and it does it.
Yeah, if you're going to develop an IC, you write it in something like Verilog or VHDL, and then you simulate it in something like Spice, and you simulate at what they call the net level, where you're simulating how the signals are passing through the gates and through the flip-flops, and you simulate it that way, and then you can produce a prototype of the chip on an FPGA, and you can do your integration testing and so on, and then if that all works, you can go and you can make an ASIC out of it and so forth. So he's basically skipping all those steps, and he's going directly from Verilog to software environment. He's skipping 30 layers of the stack, which is crazy. And it's in JavaScript, which the future is so weird and interesting.
And the lull in the conversation.
If we're all quiet for a while, Quinn will have to do something.
All right, I guess I'm going to MC this thing.
I figured out how we could make a ton of money, by the way, by combining sessions. You guys caught that, right? Because you had the Bitcoin session where at the end they said it'll take trillions of years to mine a Bitcoin. But then you had Steve 2 that speeds it up by a factor of 1,000. So, hey, you're down to billions of years.
Down to the billions of years.
Just billions.
Cha-ching.
Write a Bitcoin miner in Verilog and simulate it in 8-Bit Workshop. There you go.
I mean, that's probably how you would have to create a new ASIC anyway, right? So you just skip the actual making of the ASIC and emulate it.
Yeah, perfect. Everything is a software problem.
There's no problem in computer science that cannot be solved by another layer of indirection.
Exactly. Yes. And the 3 hardest problems in computer science are naming things and off by 1 errors.
Off by 1. Off by 1.
And or cache invalidation, depending on how you tell the joke. All right. So any other favorite sessions people want to call out?
No one's talked about the amateur radio one.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
That was something that it's a topic that I just don't think about. But I guess Earl thought about it a little bit.
Well, I did that back in the day. I had a terminal node controller and hooked it up to old 8-bit computers, and it was a ton of fun. I didn't know how much people were doing that today, especially with the retro computers, but that would be really fun to get into. The other factor is how much activity is in your local area if you're using the frequencies that don't go hundreds or thousands of miles, if you're just using the line of sight stuff. But still, it is a great presentation. And I did take a look at eBay, and you can find some of those terminal node controller, kind of like a radio modem devices out there.
Do you also need a big antenna? Like if you were doing ham or something like that?
The antenna that you need depends on a number of factors. One is the frequency range you're using. There's frequencies that go hundreds or thousands of miles and other frequencies that are more attuned for line of sight. If you're using the line of sight frequencies, VHF, UHF, you don't really need a gigantic antenna for those things. Having it way up in the air is helpful, but it doesn't need to be one of those enormous antennas that you see. Actually, even with the other frequencies, you can get away with a smaller antenna. It's just that you probably won't have as efficient of a radio experience.
Depending on your power, you can get into standing wave issues in the transmitter itself if it's shorter or longer than quarter wave and stuff like that too, where it can burn up the radio. But if you're transmitting a couple watts, it's like it doesn't really matter.
I think it is interesting to hear about these things just because this involves equipment that I will never own. It's sort of like MIDI talks. It's like it's kind of a neat idea, but I'm not going to go buy a big synthesizer just so I can try this out.
On the equipment side, software-defined radio has really opened up a lot of this. Like, again, speaking of emulation and making everything a software problem, SDR has done a lot of that for amateur radio, where now you can kind of simulate a lot of the stuff that used to take a big stack of gear behind you.
Okay. So what it sounds like to me is Joe, Quinn, and Earl, you're starting a new podcast about amateur radio.
I am not a ham.
Broadcast from their radio station.
I know many of them, but I am not one.
I could
Quinn,
download
I'm
it off of the
surprised
air.
at you.
Yeah. Over-the-air podcasts. Well, that's what the next big thing is.
My radio experience ends at Wi-Fi for local internet access as a fixed Wi-Fi or ISP solution. So you can talk about ham stuff, but
And Quinn, you can't tell us you don't have time to do that because you put a new Blondihacks video up during KansasFest. So how do you have time to do that?
That one was queued, but yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's not easy, we'll say. Yeah. Ham is one of those interesting things that dovetails very well with retrocomputing because they're kind of at the same technology level, like in the same way that like Arduino stuff dovetails really well with retrocomputers because they're also kind of at the same technology level. I think the only reason we don't hear more about it in retrocomputing circles is that Ham people are kind of a pretty tight-knit group that don't tend to intersect a lot with other groups maybe, but there should be more of it.
One of the best places to get old retro computing hardware is at Hamfests.
That's true.
That's true. I've heard that often.
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot of interesting stuff at we have a local swap meet here near where I live, and there's a lot of interesting old computer stuff there, and old oscilloscopes and test meters and just random weird electronics and things.
I miss being able to go to the school sales and get old equipment. Yeah, they all the old equipment's gone. It's newer old equipment, and I don't care about that.
Yeah,
nobody wants the old equipment's gone because you took it.
Yeah.
What, you don't want all their old Windows 7 boxes?
Yeah, nobody wants a 2010 PC.
Yeah, once we hit Windows 95 and OS X, it's like, who cares?
All right.
Sale giveaway next year, then it'll have piled up an extra year's worth of stuff.
That's true.
Yeah, it's actually. I mean, it was gonna be a big one this year.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to be a big one
one
plus a little.
I know I've got stuff I was going to be bringing back. I got to play with it for a little while. Now bring it back for the next person.
So can someone on the committee talk about that a little bit? Like the garage giveaway has kind of changed into something else, right? Because it's no longer Sean Fahey's garage, right? So what is it now, and what can we expect next year from it?
Do any of us know?
Yeah, I mean that's a loaded question because it is this nebulous thing that occasionally rears its head at us and says, "Oh, hey, this happened."
Right. I think Sean and James are no longer like trying to officially be in charge of it, but the reality is that they're still kind of the keepers of a lot of that stuff in the sense that James has a lot of room for stuff, and so does Sean, and so. They've gotten, we actually did get a couple collections this past year that we were planning on bringing. And so that stuff is still there, but I think they would prefer to not be the ones who are, officially in charge anymore.
And I think that the community knows that they are the ones that you go to if you have like, hey, I've got this collection.
Yeah.
Sean and James, they're the ones that do this stuff. Even though we don't do it anymore, but that they're now like cemented in people's minds as this is who takes care of this.
I think it still is, kind of an event, though. Like if you have stuff that you want to unload, you can presume that KansasFest is a place to do it.
Yeah. It's always going to be there. It's just never. It might not be. It's not going to be like James rolls up with his giant truck and trailer. But I think there's always going to be that Wednesday morning or whatever. Everybody goes and dives into this pit of stuff and comes out with new toys.
Yeah, so I think it sort of has to do with, if, like, I think that the fact that we had a bunch of stuff this year just had to do with a specific collection becoming available and, saving it, and so but that won't necessarily keep happening.
But if we do get like 100 new people next year, maybe we can finally get rid of all those like boxes and boxes of tangled cables.
Image writers.
And nobody's taking those or the image writers.
But we can maybe fool them. Like tell them
everybody should have at least two image writers, like in your house.
That's right.
It's a 10 chord limit. You come in, you got to take 10 chords.
That's right. Everything you get must also be accompanied by an image writer.
And you don't get to pick which 10 chords.
They're just 10 chords. 3 SCSI cables. Yeah. It does seem though that like the giveaway will kind of evolve into just a swap meet of some sort.
That's basically I think what we've always figured on it being.
Yeah, I hope it continues in some form because I think it's a big draw for a lot of people, especially to their first K-Fest. They want an Apple II, and
Exhibit A.
Yeah,
by your 5th or 6th, you're like, oh, I cannot take any more stuff.
Oh, I said that last year, and there's a G3 sitting here which it looked so sad, and I took it.
Blue and white.
You take like the painted
I took
Mac
the blue and
Pluses
white.
I love the blue and white.
I have the blue and white. And I have the adapters to stream with it.
Nice.
So I could theoretically stream off of it.
Yeah, there was that period in the Mac history where it was actually a little bit hard to get the video out.
Well,
Very sad.
I have a VGA to HDMI converter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no,
That'll
I had
just
a lot
run
of
right
there was trouble getting it to VGA though in the first place.
But is it,
Oh, this
is
one
it the
has
right
VGA.
15 pins? Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
it works. I've tested it. It works. So that's set up and able to happen if I have too many things to stream and not enough time to stream them.
All right. Well, any other topics people want to cover before we wrap it up? Seeing a
Who
lot
do
of
we
shaking
send our
heads.
audio files to, and how do we get them to them?
All right. Well,
Do I
let
need
me
to edit this out?
We'll talk about that offline.
If you
Okay.
wrap it up, then KansasFest is over. So I say we keep going.
No, I am dying, y'all.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
gonna read the phone book over here.
Must-
Oh, I am.
Aaron
like,
Aronson.
Jarvis really does not want to be up anymore. Jarvis
And
is
the
in
Discord
tower.
audio chat is still available. So
There
I'm
you
going to
go.
dive into
Yeah, I was
that.
just about to say
Jarvis
the next thing
really
I'm going
wants
to
to
do
go
is
to
go
sleep.
into the audio chat and
Yeah.
and just like listen for a little while.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if it's a bunch of people kind of meandering through and saying, "Oh, hey, it was great to see you this year." It's like that sitting in the lobby as everyone's taking
Yeah.
off to go. to
Oh
their
yeah,
cars
Sunday
and
morning.
airport.
That Sunday morning is brutal.
Well,
Yeah,
it's,
Sunday afternoon though is really weird when it's just like a couple of committee members and in an empty dorm and it's all gone.
and
That
one
must be
person with a
very
suitcase
strange.
whose flight was canceled.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've this is a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Not least because I've had to pee for 45 minutes.
You and me both.
Yeah. So this has been the Retro Open Poly Roundtable Chicken Missile Lines Drop Museum Gruecast live from KansasFest 2020 Virtual Edition. Thank you all very much to all of our guests, and we will see you next year for realsies in person. Bye, everybody.
Apple II forever.
Bye.
Apple II forever!
Apple II forever.
Retro.
Retro compute.